So again, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank all the people who are participating, all the lawyers. Again, I think we're moving in the right direction, and please keep fighting for your right to vote. Whatever you do, don't let anyone take away your right to vote. The Quay Commission is an absolutely horrible idea. If it was ever adopted, the judges, for all practical purposes, would be unaccountable to the public. I want to thank you all tonight for the time to talk, and God bless you all.
All right, very, very good speech. Now, Greg Wuerssel, that man there, is running for the Supreme Court against Justice Helen Myers. But if he wins his 8th Circuit Appellate Court decision, he will maybe, who knows what's going to happen. That could just change the dynamics of what's taking place in our courts and in the Supreme Court elections. I also want to point out he asked the question, was any incumbent judge being ran against, and there was one seat where John Dehan, I believe it's D-E-H-E-N, he is running against an incumbent judge. He ran before, got like 47%. He's running again. This man spoke at the ad hoc hearing on judicial reform and corruption, and I never met him before. He wanted to speak as a citizen who's also an attorney, who also is a city council member up in Ramsey, and he got up there and said there's a problem with our judiciary. And you got to realize it's against the rules to criticize the courts. You can be sanctioned and you can lose your license to do that. And some of these people are stepping up to the plate and doing that. And John Dehan is one of those. Dehan is one of those. So you people that live up in that 10th Judicial District, which is all the way from Woodbury all the way, it's like the 6th Congressional District. So Michelle Bachmann's area where she's the rep now, and even goes bigger, goes all the way to St. Cloud. Matamita is where this forum was heard. Vote for John Dehan, just to make a change, And I know John Dehan is not going to run against somebody who's a good judge. Okay, he's not going to do that. So I believe he'd be a better person there also. Okay. Just a couple notes. Some things were mentioned about character. And I only bring this up. Senator Wigger's has gone through a divorce. It's not real public here in our area. And one of the reasons it hasn't been real public is because it was all the way up in Cook County. Now he lives and his wife lived in Ramsey County, but somehow the divorce got to take place up in Cook County. And that just smells bad all the way around. Something's going wrong there. And another issue with Senator Wigger, and that's why I would definitely put my support behind Tammy Ekstrand, is because he doesn't understand financial accountability in relationship to spending money when we don't have it. And he went out and pushed a bill so that cities, in my understanding, so that cities, school districts can bond for teachers' pensions accounts and do funding through a bonding process, which shouldn't happen. It should be levy. And there was some $30 million that you people here in this school district, Oakdale, North St. Paul, Tartan, the Tartan High School area, that school district voted $30 million to be bonded, which is supposed to be for capital projects for teachers' retirements. We didn't have the money. And to do that is just financially insane. Well, they changed the law the next year, but everything could be grandfathered in. In other words, since it already passed, it can be done that way. But people, it's going to be a nightmare for property taxes and everything else. And there's just no accountability in this system. It's not a good thing. And you know, it's a big payoff. And when you got second grade teachers getting paid 77 grand a year plus benefits, that's way out of whack. You know, some of these teachers' salaries need to be taken back. You know, second grade teacher should not be earning $77,000 a year, in my opinion. All right. Now, just before we go to the teleprompter, I'm going to do my impression of President Obama. I'm not prepared, and we don't have a professional staff like he does. But we're going to need to get that font changed to be a little bit bigger. Let's try 2 fonts up because I can't see it that well. But I'm going to read something. It's prepared by Greg Worzel. He sent it out as who's running for the Supreme Court. He sent it out as a press release. And I just thought it was well written and it's information you need to know. So I'm going to read that to you once it gets ready. But in the meantime, let's do this. I'm going to go, I sent a letter out to Senator Franken because I wanted to have him put his name on Senate Joint Resolution 16, which the Parental Rights Amendment, which would make parental rights a fundamental right. And it's a key aspect because right now, and you can make it smaller than that, that's pretty large. Right now, you don't have a fundamental right in our country because the courts have taken it away to raise your children in the upbringing and education of your choice, whether it's your religion or whatever. You don't have that, or it's not there. It's still a pretty high right, but it's not a fundamental right. And the state can pretty much come in through any allegation or whatever and take your kids away from you. And that will be a good font in the control room. That will work well. But I'm going to read this letter that he wrote back to me when I asked him to sign on, because it will just show you kind of the game that gets played. And he disagrees with this. He doesn't think you should have a fundamental right. Thank you for contacting me about parental rights. I appreciate you sharing your concern with me on this issue and regret the delay in responding. It took quite a long time to get a response. Senate Joint Resolution 16, which was introduced by Senator DeMint on May 14, 2009, states that parents have the sole right to decide how their children are brought up and educated, and that's not true. It does not say that. It says they have a fundamental right, which means it's so, but that can be taken away if that parent has abused that child and has taken away and deprived that child of their constitutional rights. And abuse would be one of those things. And so he's trying to parse that it's a sole right and you cannot do anything to take a child away from a parent. And that's not true. But anyway, states that parents have the sole right to decide how their children are brought up and educated, that the government cannot infringe on this right without demonstrating that it is necessary for the interest of the child, and that no international treaty can supersede that right. And that's right. That's what the treaties, the constitutional amendment is doing. This proposal has been referred to the Senate Judiciary Committee for consideration, which he sits on. All right. As a father of 2 grown children, I fully understand the importance of parents having the right to do what they believe is best for the children. As a parent, it was my right to choose where my kids attend school, what they ate, and how they spent their free time. I share your belief that responsible parents should have the opportunity to choose their children's education, religious, and social upbringings. However, not all parents have the capacity to make the best choices for children. Duh. Okay, this amendment would prevent authorities from removing children from unfit homes and thereby protecting innocent children. And that is not the truth. And that's where the spin begins, because that is not the truth. You have to go through a legal process and you actually have to prove that the parents are doing that. Right now, they don't even have to prove it. They can just do it. They can have the allegation and they can take the child away and then make those parents go through a whole rigmarole. And I was just talking to another parent yesterday that went through this abusive system. And remember, we're in such a situation where we got so many child safety people, child protection people, that they need to find cases in order to justify their work. So they'll grab onto anything and string somebody along for months and months, 8 months, a year and a half, and then they'll drop the charges. In the meanwhile, the family becomes financially devastated and broken and hurt, and the children are even destroyed. So the legal process doesn't allow for protection of constitutional rights. Okay, abusive parents should not be rewarded by having unchecked power. I absolutely agree with him, but this amendment does not stop abusive parents from having their kids taken away, and he knows that. Okay. Further, United States courts have consistently upheld the right of parents balanced with the basic and fundamental rights of children. Well, there's no fundamental right to the courts haven't done that. And this is just wrong. What he says here has not taken place. Further, the United States courts have consistently upheld the rights of parents balanced with the basic and fundamental rights of children. So children have fundamental rights, but parents don't have fundamental rights. So now you got the children over the parents, and that is not a good situation. So state, if you're going to take a child away from a parent, you got to prove it, get it out of the civil courts, put it in the criminal courts, and prove your allegations. And I was talking to somebody last night, and I've already seen this happen in courtrooms where the prosecutor and the Child Protection Service will go in the back room and talk to the judge, and your attorney's not there. They'll be there alone, and these are all civil cases. They don't end up in criminal, okay? And they'll come out, and they've got all their decisions already made, and you haven't had representation, and anything you say isn't going to do any good. I've seen it happen to many people, and I just heard another case, and that person started describing this to me last night, and I said, yeah, I know about that. And they were surprised I knew. They kind of thought they were one of the only people. He says, no, it happens all the time. And it's wrong, and that's why the judiciary needs to be under control, and that's why we need to have this constitutional amendment for fundamental liberties. So he just is either ignorant or has been told, or he's telling a lie here as far as what's really going on. Okay, then he goes on to say, I strongly believe that we must look at all constitutional amendments with a very critical eye. Yeah, absolutely. In the more than 220 years since its adoption, the United States Constitution has only been amended 27 times. Okay, only? That's a lot. While I am open to consideration of constitutional amendments, I will be very hesitant to give my support to any constitutional amendment unless I believe that it's absolutely necessary. We must continue to proceed cautiously to ensure the longevity and strength of our main governing document as intended by our founding fathers. Our founding fathers intended that the parents have the right, the fundamental right. Justice Scalia said, yes, it's an unalienable right, but it wasn't put into our Constitution. Our founding fathers believed that was an unalienable right, and that started changing with the Supreme Court making decisions like Troxel versus Granville that watered down some of the parental rights. Although we may disagree on this issue, I appreciate the opportunity to have an open dialogue with you, and will keep your concerns in mind if this constitutional amendment comes before the Judiciary Committee or full Senate for further consideration. Again, thank you for contacting me. Please don't hesitate to do so in the future on any other matter of concern to you. So I need to write them back and straighten them out. And yeah, we need to be very wary about what constitutional amendments we put in there. But when our government, through their own oligarchy, the judiciary, starts changing the intent of our Constitution, the people need to go and redefine it. And we don't want the UN telling us, and Uganda and Afghanistan and Pakistan telling us how to raise our kids. And that would be defining our Constitution, because our courts have left that open for other countries to define it for us, or the UN. All right. Now, I'm going to read this statement here. We'll go to the teleprompter, and we're just doing this on the fly right here and now. So it will be interesting to see how it goes. But we're going to give it a shot. But this was a statement written by Greg Wursel. When most people go to vote, they have no idea who the judicial candidates are or why they should vote for them. This doesn't happen